Gather round, you young ones, and listen. My name is not important. What matters is that I have seen 95 winters come and go, and my memory holds tales that your history books have forgotten. Look out at our town of Raventhorne. See the new market square, the children playing by the river, the banners of peace that flutter from every rooftop. It is a beautiful sight, is it not? But this peace was not given to us. It was earned. It was bought with blood, with tears, and with a love so strong it could shatter the darkest of spells. This is the story of that love. The story of two brothers who were torn apart by war and reunited by the very thing that sought to destroy them. It is the tale of Thorn and Eli. Before the darkness fell, Raventhorne was a beacon of hope, and the two princes were its brightest lights. Thorn was the elder, strong and just, his heart a fortress of loyalty to his people. He was destined for the throne, a leader forged in the image of his forefathers, respected by all who knew him. Eli, the younger, was the dreamer. He was a scholar and a diplomat, his strength found not in the sword but in the word. He saw the good in everyone, even when the shadows grew long. They were more than brothers. They were two halves of a single soul, their bond the bedrock upon which the future of Raventhorne was to be built. But a shadow was creeping towards our home, a malevolent will named Vox Noctivain. Emperor Vox was a master of the mind, a sorcerer who feasted on despair and doubt. He did not conquer lands with armies alone, he conquered souls with whispers and nightmares. He saw the strength of Raventhorne, and he knew its heart was the bond between Thorn and Eli. To break the kingdom, he first had to break its princes. He set his sights on Thorn, the noble warrior, for he knew that the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. Vox began to weave his wicked magic, planting seeds of fear and paranoia in the fertile ground of Thorn's mind, patiently waiting for the moment when the hero would begin to question himself, his family, and everything he held dear. The war came to our doorstep not with a roar, but with a chilling silence. It was a war of attrition, fought in the hearts of our people. Vox's influence spread like a plague, turning neighbour against neighbour, friend against friend. The air grew thick with suspicion, and as the pressure mounted, the first cracks appeared in Thorn's resolve. He started seeing things that were not there, visions of betrayal, illusions of his loved ones turning against him. He saw Eli in quiet counsel with enemy emissaries. He saw his beloved Lyra, whispering secrets to shadows. These were lies, of course, cruel tricks of the light. But to a mind under siege, they felt as real as the stone beneath his feet. The great Prince Thorn was beginning to crumble.
Brother, my mind plays tricks on me. I see shadows where there is only light.
It is the strain of war, Thorn. Vox seeks to unnerve us, to make us doubt our own senses. Trust in what you know to be true. Trust in me.
Thorn's fall was not a sudden plummet, but a slow, agonizing descent. In the beginning, he fought the visions with all the strength of his noble character. He would shake his head, clearing the phantoms from his sight, and seek out his brother, Eli, for reassurance. For a time, Eli's words were a powerful anchor, holding Thorn steady against the rising tide of madness. But Vox Noctivain was relentless. The whispers grew more insidious, the illusions more vivid. They preyed on Thorn's deepest fears, his fear of failure as a leader, his fear of being unable to protect his people, and his secret, buried fear that he was not as strong as everyone believed him to be. The visions began to twist his love for Lyra into a suffocating jealousy. He saw her smiling at another night, a simple, innocent gesture that Vox's magic warped into an act of infidelity. "She mocks you," the whisper in his mind would hiss. "They all mock you. They see your weakness. They plot your downfall." Thorn started to withdraw, his conversations becoming clipped and his eyes filled with a constant, weary suspicion. The breaking point came during the Battle of the Weeping Fields. Thorn led the charge, a magnificent figure in gleaming armor, but Vox's illusions were at their peak. On the battlefield, the faces of his own soldiers morphed into monstrous visages. He saw Eli standing on a distant hill, not with Raventhorne's commanders, but with Vox's lieutenants, a map spread between them. The image was a masterpiece of deception, so real that Thorn's heart shattered. The trust he had fought so hard to maintain finally gave way. He faltered in the heat of battle, his hesitation costing the lives of good men. He returned not as a hero, but as a man haunted by perceived betrayal. That night, Lyra found him in the armory, staring at his reflection in a polished shield. His face was pale, his eyes hollow.
Thorn, what is it? Talk to me.
He turned to her, but he did not see the woman he loved. He saw a conspirator, her gentle features twisted by Vox's magic into a smug, deceitful mask.
You and my brother, you seek to usurp me.
Lyra recoiled, her heart breaking at the accusation. The darkness had taken root. The noble prince was lost, and in his place stood a puppet whose strings were pulled by an unseen master from a distant, shadowed throne. In his despair, Thorn sought an escape from the pain, from the crushing weight of his supposed betrayal. He found his answer in the Order of the Hollow Flame, a grim sect of warriors who served Emperor Vox. They were not mere soldiers. They were zealots who promised a chilling form of salvation. Their creed was simple: emotion is weakness, attachment is a flaw, and true strength is found only in absolute obedience. To join them, one had to perform a ritual to purge all feeling, leaving behind an empty vessel, a perfect instrument of Vox's will. For Thorn, who felt too much, the promise of feeling nothing at all was a siren's song he could not resist. The ritual was a brutal affair, conducted in a hidden chamber deep beneath Vox's fortress. Chanting priests surrounded Thorn, their voices a droning monotone as they recited litanies of nihilism and despair. They forced him to relive every memory of love, joy, and camaraderie. But this time, the images were tainted, twisted into sources of agony.
Relinquish your ties, embrace the void. Only in nothingness will you find true power.
He saw his childhood laughter with Eli as a prelude to betrayal. He saw Lyra's loving gaze as a mask for manipulation. The process was designed to break the spirit, to sever every emotional tie until all that remained was a cold, hollow void. Thorn, already weakened and confused, submitted completely. The light in his eyes flickered and died, replaced by the dull, unfeeling glow of the hollow flame. He emerged a different man. The Prince of Raventhorne was gone, and in his place stood a silent, unpitying enforcer. His magnificent armor was replaced with the black, jagged plate of the Order. His face, once open and expressive, became an emotionless mask. He moved with a terrifying purpose, his actions precise and devoid of hesitation or mercy. He was dispatched across the land to crush pockets of resistance, and he did so with an efficiency that was horrifying to behold. He no longer fought for glory or for his people. He fought because he was commanded to, his sword arm moved by Vox's will as if he were a marionette. His first mission was to quell an uprising in the very villages he had sworn to protect. The people of Raventhorne, who had once cheered his name, now looked upon him with terror. They saw their beloved prince, but his eyes were those of a stranger. He showed no recognition, no flicker of memory as he carried out Vox's brutal orders. He scattered families, burned homes, and silenced dissent without a single word. Eli and Lyra watched from afar, their hearts filled with a grief beyond measure. The brother they knew, the man they loved, was trapped somewhere inside that cold shell of a warrior, and they had no idea how to reach him. The Order of the Hollow Flame had given him peace, but it was the peace of the grave. The ultimate test of Thorn's new loyalty was a task of unspeakable cruelty, designed by Vox to sever the final thread of his past. He was ordered to return to the capital of Raventhorne, not as a conqueror, but as an instrument of personal destruction. His target was the heart of the resistance, his own family. Vox knew that a public display of Thorn breaking his own kin would shatter the morale of the people entirely. It was the final, most depraved act in his psychological war, and he sent his most perfect weapon to carry it out. Thorn marched towards the castle, his steps steady, his heart a frozen stone within his chest. He felt nothing. He was merely following an order. Eli stood on the battlements, watching his brother approach. He refused to believe Thorn was completely lost.
He's still in there. Do not harm him. Let me speak to him.
Ignoring all warnings, Eli went to the gates alone and unarmed.
Thorn, brother, it is I, Eli. Fight this!
He called out, his voice filled with desperate hope. Thorn stopped. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of confusion crossed his face. The name Eli was a distant echo, a ghost of a feeling. But the conditioning of the hollow flame was too strong. The whisper of Vox in his mind was a roar. He is the enemy. He is the illusion of weakness. Strike him down. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Thorn raised his sword, its edge glowing with a malevolent cold fire. He did not aim to kill, for Vox's order was to break, not to martyr. He moved with chilling precision. His attack aimed not at Eli's life, but at his spirit. He shattered the ancient crest of their family that Eli wore, the symbol of their bond. Then he turned his attention to Eli's home, where his wife and young children watched in horror. With a single, calculated strike of his enchanted blade, he brought a section of the tower crashing down, not to harm them, but to engulf their lives in fear and ruin. It was an act of profound psychological violence, a message that nothing was sacred. Eli was left kneeling amidst the rubble of his home and his heart. The physical wounds were minor, but the wound to his soul was mortal. He had seen his own brother, the hero of his youth, become a monster who would threaten his wife and children. The people of Raventhorne, seeing this ultimate betrayal, lost all hope. With a heavy heart, Eli knew he could not stay. He was a symbol of a failed hope. That night, under the cover of darkness, he gathered what was left of his family and fled into exile. He was no longer a prince, but a fugitive, a broken man haunted by the face of the brother who had driven him away. Raventhorne had fallen completely. Years passed. Vox Noctivena's dark rule solidified its grip on Raventhorne. The town that was once vibrant and full of life became a place of grey skies, silent streets and fearful whispers. Hope was a dangerous commodity, a flickering candle in a storm. But in the desolate lands of exile, something was changing.
I was being reforged in the fires of hardship. No longer the gentle prince who relied on words. I learned to survive, to fight, and to lead. I gathered other exiles, other lost souls whose homes had been stolen by Vox's tyranny, and I forged them into a small but determined band of rebels. The fire of redemption was kindling within me.
The catalyst for his return was Lyra. She had never given up hope on either brother. Working as a spy within Vox's occupied city, she risked her life to send messages to Eli.
He has trapped Eli, my secret letter read. I see it in the briefest moments. A hesitation, a glance. He is still in there, fighting from within a cage of magic. Vox's power is not absolute. Your love is the key.
Her words reignited the spark in Eli's soul. He was not just fighting to free a kingdom anymore. He was fighting to save his brother from the damnation that had claimed him. Eli's return was not that of a conquering hero, but of a whisper of defiance that grew into a roar.
We used our knowledge of the land to stage daring raids, liberating supplies and freeing political prisoners. We became a symbol of hope for the oppressed people of Raventhorne. Stories of the wandering prince spread through the city, fanning the embers of rebellion that had long been dormant.
Eli's voice, once used for diplomacy, now called for courage.
Vox gave you fear. I would declare to the hidden groups of rebels, we will give you strength. He gave you darkness. We will bring the dawn.
The brothers were set on a collision course. Vox, enraged by this new resistance, sent his most formidable enforcer to crush it, Thorn. The two brothers were destined to meet again, but this time the battlefield would be different.
I was no longer the naive younger brother. I was a hardened warrior and a leader of a revolution. I prepared my forces for the inevitable confrontation, my heart a mixture of dread and determination. I had to face the monster my brother had become, but I held on to Lyra's words. I was not there to kill Thorn. I was there to break the spell and bring my brother home.
The stage was set for the final battle for Raventhorne's soul. The siege began at dusk, under a sky the colour of a fresh bruise. Eli's rebels, though outnumbered, fought with the ferocity of those who had nothing left to lose. They used the city's winding alleys and hidden passages to their advantage, turning Raventhorne itself into a weapon against its occupiers. The clash of steel and the shouts of battle echoed through the stone streets where children once played.
I coordinated the uprising from within, opening gates and creating diversions. It was chaos, desperate, wild, a city tearing itself apart to be reborn.
At the heart of the storm, Eli knew his true objective lay in the Emperor's throne room. He fought his way through the palace guards, his every move driven by a singular purpose. He finally breached the throne room, but it was not Vox who greeted him. It was Thorn. He stood there, silent and imposing in his black armor, his emotionless eyes fixed on his brother.
Behold, the family reunion. Prove your loyalty, my champion. Destroy this final remnant of your weak past. Show him how thoroughly you have been cleansed.
The air crackled with dark energy as Thorn drew his blade, its cold fire illuminating the grim chamber. The duel that followed was a tragedy in motion. Eli did not fight to win. He fought to survive, to defend, to reach the brother buried beneath the layers of dark magic. He parried Thorn's relentless, brutally efficient strikes, calling out to him between the ringing of their swords.
Thorn, remember the woods where we trained as boys? Remember the oath we swore to our father, to always protect each other.
Each word was a desperate attempt to find a crack in the armor of Thorn's conditioning. He spoke of their mother's lullabies, of Lyra's unwavering love, of the kingdom they were meant to build together. For the most part, Thorn remained impassive, a perfect fighting machine. His attacks were flawless, his defense impenetrable. He was stronger, faster, and driven by a singular command. Eli was being pushed back, his strength failing. He saw no recognition in his brother's eyes, only the cold void of the hollow flame. Despair began to creep into Eli's heart. Perhaps Lyra was wrong. Perhaps there was nothing left of his brother to save. He stumbled, and Thorn's blade was at his throat. Vox laughed, a triumphant, grating sound.
Finish it. End this foolish rebellion and embrace your true power.
The moment of reckoning had arrived. With Thorn's blade at his brother's throat, Vox Noctivain decided to indulge in his own cruelty. He wanted more than just victory. He wanted to savor the complete and utter corruption of a hero's soul.
Look at him, Thorn. See him for what he truly is.
And with a wave of his hand, he cast his most powerful illusion yet. The image of Eli, kneeling and defeated, flickered and changed. Now Thorn saw not his brother, but a monstrous creature, a demon with glowing red eyes and a sneering mouth, the embodiment of all the lies Vox had fed him for years.
This is your enemy. This is the source of all your pain. Destroy it!
Thorn's grip on his sword tightened. The conditioning of the hollow flame screamed at him to obey, to strike down the monster before him. His arm tensed, ready to deliver the final blow, but through the horrifying illusion he could still hear Eli's voice, now quiet and strained, yet unwavering.
Brother, I forgive you. No matter what happens, I love you.
Those words, so simple and so pure, were a force that Vox's magic could not twist or corrupt. They were a key, turning a lock deep within Thorn's soul that had been rusted shut for years. A memory broke through the darkness. It was a memory from childhood, of the two of them hiding from a thunderstorm, a young Eli, terrified, and Thorn holding him, saying,
I will always protect you, little brother.
The memory was a flash of brilliant light in the endless night of his mind. The illusion of the demon flickered. He saw Eli again, his own brother, his flesh and blood, waiting for the end with love in his eyes, not fear. The whispers of Vox and the conditioning of the Order battled against this sudden, overwhelming surge of love and memory. The conflict was so violent that Thorn cried out, a sound of pure agony as his mind tore itself in two. Love won. With a guttural roar that was entirely his own, Thorn broke the spell. He did not lower his sword. He turned it. He spun around, the years of rage, grief and stolen identity now directed at its true source. Vox Noctivane's smug smile vanished, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief. He had believed his puppet to be perfect, his control absolute. He never considered that the very emotion he deemed a weakness, love, could be the most powerful weapon of all. Thorn, free for the first time in years, charged not at his brother, but at his master. The Emperor's gambit had failed, and he was about to face the righteous fury of the hero he had tried so hard to destroy. Thorn's attack was a storm of unleashed fury. All the pain, the manipulation and the stolen years fueled a rage that was terrifying to behold. He was no longer the cold, precise enforcer. He was a berserker, a wounded lion striking at its tormentor. Vox Noctivain, though a powerful sorcerer, was taken by surprise. He threw up magical shields and hurled bolts of dark energy, but Thorn smashed through them with pure, relentless force. The throne room became a whirlwind of destructive power as the two titans clashed. Spells exploded against the walls, and the very foundations of the castle trembled with the force of their battle. But Thorn was fighting a war on two fronts. Even as he battled Vox, the dark magic of the hollow flame was consuming him from within. It was a poison that had been in his soul for too long, and now that he was resisting it, it was tearing him apart. Black veins spread across his skin, and his body convulsed with pain. He was burning out, sacrificing his own life force for this one chance at redemption. He knew he was dying. With a final desperate surge of strength, he broke through Vox's last defense and plunged his sword deep into the Emperor's chest. A shockwave of energy erupted from Vox, shattering the throne and blowing Thorn backwards across the room. The Emperor dissolved into shadows and dust, his reign of terror finally over. As his magic died, a wave of light washed over the land. The grey skies over Raventhorne began to clear, and the dark enchantments that held the people in fear were broken. But Thorn lay broken and motionless on the floor, the fire in his eyes fading, the dark poison having done its work. He had won, but it had cost him everything.
Thorn, you did it! You came back!
Eli rushed to his side, tears streaming down his face, cradling his brother's head.
I protected you, little brother.
Thorn managed a faint, pained smile, his life slipping away. Eli refused to let him go. He remembered an ancient and forbidden ritual of their bloodline, a legend of life transference, a sacrifice of one soul to mend another. Without hesitation, he placed his hands on Thorn's chest and began to chant the old words. His own life energy, his own vitality flowed from him into his brother. The rebels who had entered the throne room watched in awe as a soft golden light enveloped the two princes. Eli grew weaker, paler, collapsing as Thorn's wounds began to heal. He was giving his life for his brothers. But just as Eli was about to fade completely, Lyra rushed forward, placing her hands on them both, her own love adding to the ritual and stabilizing the flow of life, saving them both from the brink of death. In the quiet aftermath of the battle, the two brothers lay side by side in the royal infirmary, slowly healing. The sacrifice had saved Thorn's life, but it had taken a heavy toll on Eli. For weeks they drifted between consciousness and memory, their shared ordeal binding them closer than ever. When Thorn finally awoke, the first thing he saw was Eli sleeping in the bed next to him, and Lyra sitting in a chair between them, keeping vigil. The coldness was gone from his eyes, replaced by a deep, sorrowful wisdom. The memories of his actions under Vox's control came flooding back, not as nightmares, but as scars he would have to learn to live with. The weight of his guilt was immense, but it was a feeling he welcomed, for it meant he was finally himself again. The healing of the brothers mirrored the healing of Raventhorne itself. With Vox gone, the people began to rebuild. They cleared the rubble, replanted the fields, and raised the banners of their kingdom once more. The sun seemed to shine brighter, and the sound of laughter slowly returned to the streets. The stories of the brothers' final battle, of Thorn's redemption and Eli's sacrifice became a legend, a founding myth for the new era of peace. They were no longer just princes. They were symbols of the kingdom's resilience, a testament to the idea that even the deepest wounds could heal, and that even the darkest night must eventually give way to the dawn. Their first public appearance was at a celebration in the main square. The entire kingdom had gathered. Thorn, still leaning on Eli for support, stood before his people. His voice, when he spoke, was not that of a king, but of a man humbled by his journey through darkness.
I do not ask for your forgiveness, for I've not yet earned it. I only ask for a chance to spend the rest of my days rebuilding what I helped to break.
Then Eli stepped forward, taking his brother's hand and raising it for all to see.
We have all been wounded by the darkness, but we will heal together, as a family, as a kingdom.
And so, a new chapter began for Raventhorne. Thorn and Eli ruled together, not as king and prince, but as equal partners, their strengths complementing each other perfectly. Thorn's strength was now tempered with humility, and Eli's wisdom was now fortified with a warrior's resolve. They governed with compassion and justice, their love for each other the unshakable foundation of their reign. The scars of the past remained, a reminder of the price of peace, but they were no longer a source of pain. They were a testament to their victory, to the enduring power of redemption, and to a brotherly bond that had been to hell and back only to emerge stronger than ever before.